Hello, newsies. Not newsies. What am I saying? It's not newsstand. No. Hello, guys. Welcome to Becca's Backyard Live. As you can see, I'm a little discombobulated. So here's what just happened in my life. About 20 minutes ago, I would say, a little bit more than 20 minutes ago, we had a thunderstorm that rolled in. Excuse me, and it was so huge and it came with such force in that we lost internet. And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, all I have is 3G. Will a post go through so I can tell everybody that we canceled? So I was busy writing that and a post, and then all of a sudden, poof, the internet came back like 7 minutes ago, and I was like, oh, I can do it, and I hadn't sent out the post yet. But then I realized that it was freezing outside because of the thunderstorm, and it was raining in sideways outside. So I quickly ran myself in, and I am sitting on the beanbag chair that I was going to use inside. When I worked in here, if I was going to bring Becca's Backyard Live inside. So I ran in here and I'm sitting on the beanbag chair on the floor. Not great lighting. I tried it with the lights on. They're fluorescent and painful. And so I figure you guys are used to seeing me sort of shadowed anyway because of sitting outside. So I'm sitting inside in the shadows now. It's still a little chilly, actually, even like in my house right now. And I'm sure if you listen carefully, you will hear some thunder. I am hoping to hope that the storm has passed enough that we won't lose internet in the middle of the stream. But if I do, I apologize now for it happening. Yeah, so that's what just happens in my life as you guys were trying to get here. Hey, everybody. Hey, Bill, CV, Karen, Abby, Miriam, Nancy, you're all here. I'm so excited. Hey, Joe. Oh, yeah. So we're full house today, guys. Good group. I'm excited. And we're getting close. Unit 2 is coming, you guys. I hope you're ready. It is less than a week away, or actually just about a week away. Next Wednesday, you guys, is Unit 2. If you are not yet registered, or you want a scholarship, a seat to it, or I don't know, you want to know more about it, please head over to beccalaurie.com and take a look on the course. It's called Self-Defined Living, and while you're there, make sure you sign up for my newsletter, which is free, but in it will come discounts to the course. And I am going to do my darndest to get that newsletter out to you before the 5th so that you get those discounts for Unit 2. Yeah, so that's it. While I remember to talk about that, because it's coming, you guys. And I am so stoked to keep moving you guys forward in your journey. Exciting. But yeah, so here we are. Yeah, let's see. Yep, there was a lot of scrambling. Me too, Miriam. Yes, I feel like July just disappeared. I don't know where it went. It does feel exactly like that. I was just saying to my husband the other day that I felt like we didn't do anything with our summer yet, and it's half gone. And so we're going to do something about that, I hope. But in the meantime, I hope that you guys are having a good day and you guys are having some positivity in your lives. I've had a pretty good day today, and it's ending with this lovely thunderstorm chat with you guys. And I really couldn't ask for any more than that. Trying, I may all morning to decide on a topic. Of course, it's inevitably difficult for me to decide what I want to talk about. I'm always, I think about a topic and I think, oh, everyone will like that. That's a good one. People are interested in that. And then I think, oh, no, maybe not my group. Maybe they're interested in something else. Maybe that one's too boring, this, that. So I was playing around with doing something about sensory overload, because I'm myself in a moment of sensory overload, like a moment in time of my life where I'm feeling a lot of sensory overload. So I thought maybe I would talk about that. But then I looked back at my list and I remembered that, Joe, I'm calling you out, that Joe had given me the idea to talk a little bit about processing through your diagnosis and processing through those aha moments, the moments where your childhood memories come back to you, traumatic sometimes, right? And to talk about that piece and how to kind of walk through that portion, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about processing your diagnosis, because it happens, right? We get that diagnosis, and there's early processing about it, something that's really, really consuming parts of your diagnosis. And then you continue to process that diagnosis for many, many years to come. I am still 8 years out and still processing where it lands in my life, and when it's autism and when it's just Becca being Becca, right? And all of those pieces. So I want to talk a little bit about that, especially I want to talk about your first year post-diagnosis, because I think that's the one that is the most traumatic, full of the most upheaval, I want to say, I guess. And it gets easier after that. So those of you that are a little bit past a year out from your diagnosis, know that you're getting to the easier part. It does get better. It does get easier. And as Dina Gassner would say, you grow into your autism. You grow into your diagnosis, right? And so give yourself the time to do that. Remember that as a portion that we all had to grow into our diagnoses, all of us. And so it's an important piece to remember. So let's talk about it. You get that diagnosis, right? You go through the process. Perhaps you self-diagnosed, whatever the case may be, for you, for me, for anyone. But the diagnosis comes. Here it is. It arrives. And what then, right? What do I do now? That's something that was missing for me. That's something that didn't exist for me at my time of diagnosis. I'm happy to say that more exists now, and we're creating some right now in this moment, and we're making it ourselves. And so when we talk about that first year, I want you to remember a few things. That first year, you are going to really sort of in a way that's out of your control. It will certainly feel out of your control. You're going to be going back to your childhood memories, and often the ones that stick with us are the ones that were most uncomfortable or most painful, right? So you're maybe processing through a bunch of those and trying to find the autism in it, right? Was the autism always there? And I think part of that comes from questioning ourselves, right? It's hard for us to trust ourselves after years of having our reality invalidated, right? And so it's hard to trust that what we think is right, especially if you're in a self-diagnosis scenario, right? So you begin to question that all the time. Was it really there? Am I making it up? Is it really that bad? What if, did I, right? And you go through those parts of it. And then there are times when you process through and you know for sure autism was there, and why didn't somebody do something about it then, or no, or why not? And we tend to process through a lot of anger in those moments. There's a lot of bitter and angry resentment for the trauma that we ended up living through because our diagnosis was not known, it was not understood, and we didn't understand we didn't understand it ourselves, right? We didn't know that about ourselves. And so in that time, we have to give ourselves the kindness and give ourselves the privilege of processing through all of that. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to be sad. I was so sad for so much of the beginning, so sad for little me, right? Just always thinking about poor little Becca, and she didn't have this and she didn't have that, and she didn't know how to protect herself yet, you know? And a lot of that, I went through a lot of that. And I think that's the stuff that we have in common, that when we get that diagnosis later in life, we sort of all walk through that walk, that questioning of whether autism was there the whole time, questioning whether we're right, questioning the moments when autism was there and why we weren't getting help, right? And we can't help it. You can't help but to wonder what would have been different if, right? So the thing about that is, and I see you guys talking over there. I see you, Miriam. It took you a longer time than the first year, right? 2 years. We all are on our own journey. So I'm just talking about in general, right? And so if it takes you 2 years, 3 years, 8 years, 10 years, right? Maybe you found out when you were a kid, and you needed to do some growing up before you processed your diagnosis. But that first year of processing your diagnosis, I think, is always filled with this stuff, this look back behavior. And I think we swing through sadness and anger in that time period. And my biggest warning is don't ignore it, right? You want to live through it and feel it and allow yourself to walk through those feelings and re-experience those memories, right? And process through all of it. But take care of yourself along the way. Make sure you're not processing alone. Make sure you are processing with a clinician or a mentor or somebody, a family member. Let them know what you're kind of going through, right? And then, of course, you're going to feel all of these feelings. And that's okay. It's okay to feel sad and angry about how things went. The trick of it all is not to get stuck there. So you don't want to get stuck in that sadness, stuck in that anger, or any of those emotions attached to the past. And as I've talked about before, that's because when we focus too much on the past, we trigger our depression. There's not much that we can do about what has already been, right? We can think about it. We can walk through it a second time. And, we kind of can just process through it and take our time, right? And then, we have to remember there's a certain amount of kindness that needs to go along with that. Kindness to ourselves and to those around us. We're going through it, but they're watching us go through our change, and they're part of it, right? They have been a part of our lives. And so making sure that we're aware of it, and that we're in the moment of it, right? We're mindful of it is really what I'm saying, so that we don't get stuck there, because you don't want to not have forward motion, and you certainly don't want to live in a negative place. It doesn't really accomplish much, and certainly doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to ignore how we're feeling. So important to process through them, as important not to get stuck there. And I caution against it. I think it's a dangerous place to go to get stuck there. So allow yourself that time, allow yourself all of that processing space, and know that it's going to feel overwhelming, and you are going to feel like you're kind of tearing your life apart a little bit. And there is a sense of that, because all of those decisions about how you're living your life prior to your diagnosis were made without that bit of information. So you weren't making fully informed decisions. And so there are probably lots of things that you need to kind of knock down and rebuild, right? Everything from employment to finances to your negative self-talk to your relationships, right? All of that stuff needs to be addressed with this new information in mind. And that's what the course is about. That's what I teach about in there, is how to walk through that, right? And come out the other side feeling better and feeling like you're walking in your own shoes and in your own life and not somebody else's. What else? I also think as you're processing through your diagnosis, you should really make sure that the sources where you're getting information from are realistic and factual resources. There is a lot of space for opinion in our community, tons of space for it. But there are some really basic things about autism that are factual, that we know to be true. And we want to make sure that as you're educating yourself about autism, you stay in a lane of factual information, really information that's been vetted, or organizations that have been vetted for quite some time. For example, I will mention some. You will want to associate yourself with organizations like ASAN, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. You want to look into what are some of the organizations that other autistics feel are doing good things for our community, right? You want to look toward people that are doing doing right by autistics, and that means that you need to look to people who've been in the game longer or have had their diagnosis longer, so to speak, right? And know a little bit more than you do, and you can find them at some of those really good organizations, and you can also find them on the internet. That's the next piece of advice that I want to give, that I wish I had had more of as I processed through my diagnosis, and that's some peer mentorship. Really looking for some autistics whose work, whose writing, whose art, whose lifestyle, whatever it may be, you want to emulate, or you look up to, or you think is a good way to be, and start there. Start filling up your news feed, your inbox, your bookshelves with information from those people and those people's recommendations, right? Because you want to kind of stay where you're getting information. We talked a lot about in COVID, I told you to really choose just a few really choice resources and kind of stick with them so that you don't overwhelm yourself. And this is a similar scenario. So you want to find a couple of groups, maybe a few places on the internet, and ask some autistics that are in there, and ask, do some research about the autistic opinion of some organizations that you are looking for help from. The last part of that piece of course, of looking for mentors is that you are not alone anymore. Your diagnosis means you have a community. You have a peer group now. You have people that when you talk about your experiences through the first year are going to shake their heads at you and go, me too. Yup. And then this and then that, right? And it always behooves us to find somebody who is further along in that process than we are, to look toward as somebody who we can make our goals, right? We can figure out how we want to be out in the world, and create a goal based on the stuff that we're getting from our peer mentor. It is important that I think you don't have to be involved in the autism community, but it's important to know that it's there. Because there may come a time when you need it, and it's important to familiarize yourself with who those players are in that area, right? And you for your health and well-being, and for the pleasure of being in a conversation with a fellow autistic where you are both open about your autism, is one of the most joyful things that comes out of your diagnosis. So don't deny yourself that stuff. Go out and seek us. We're out there. We're all talking loudly. We are alone together very well, the autistic community. We're all from our little home bases attached on the interweb, and we're there because we want to be, because finding our community was important, and it helped us through our diagnosis, and it's important that we be there as a community for everyone coming after us, for those of us who get diagnosed afterwards. So making sure you find those pieces and components, right? And making sure that you remember to treat your diagnosis as the gift that it is, right? Getting a diagnosis has given you a window into information about yourself that you did not have before. And that is a gift that can help you make better choices, informed decisions. And that is a gift. And so to keep that piece in mind as you are processing through your diagnosis. Now, that's not to say that after the first year it doesn't continue. It definitely does. Memories come back to you at different times. New experiences trigger old traumas. That'll happen for you as you're walking through it. It still happens to me. It happens to a bunch of us. So it's a constant evolution. It's a constant growing into of your diagnosis, right? And how you learn to live and thrive with your diagnosis. And it's so important to remember in that first year that so many people have been there before you and made it through. So while you may be entirely overwhelmed and you may need some space to yourself and some time to yourself, and really just walking through all of it, but don't deny yourself the joys along the way. Don't deny yourself the comfort of an autistic space, because you've never really understood what it is to be surrounded by your peers yet. You don't know that yet, and it's a wonderful experience. Therapies. I very much recommend that you get yourself into some version of talk therapy. My personal favorites are cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT, or dialectic behavior therapy, which is DBT. I think both concepts work really good for the autistic brain. I had a clinician, or I was lucky enough, who did both, and that was very helpful. So in terms of a late diagnosis, you are going to need someone that you can process all of this stuff with, that you know it's private, and you know that what you're going through, you can say and speak freely in that space. You need that safe space. And so that's what I would look for, is someone who uses either of those two therapies, and preferably someone who has had experience working with autistic adults. That's the one that's going to be a little bit harder to find. But do some research on it, get yourself into some version of talk therapy, because you have to process through it, or it will drag you down. You won't be able to stop the wave of emotions and processing, and control that piece. So you need someone to kind of cheer you on along the way. So I would definitely do that. And as you know, I've talked about before, the real truth of it is that getting a formal diagnosis of autism versus a self-diagnosis matters not. There are still very few services and supports out there. So it's a lot about figuring it out on your own, a lot of trial and error of walking through what's good for you, what pieces of autism challenge you, of your personal brand, right? Learning about your personal brand of autism and understanding it. And, you know, that is really, you know, a big part of it. And then, you know, filling your world, starting to fill your world up with that part of your identity, that new part of your identity. It helps a lot. It helps on the really bad days, and there are bad days. There are days when we feel so challenged and so overwhelmed by our challenges that we feel like we could give up. There are days when we are so challenged by the outside world that we don't want to leave our house. And we have those days, and it doesn't, ignoring them or pretending they don't happen doesn't help, but sharing them with people who also experience it does. And so I suggest that. I'm going to catch up a little bit in chat, because I know I've missed a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Yep. So we all are looking for this safe space when we're feeling overwhelmed, right? And so I've tried to create one here. Some of you are feeling that way about this space. So for that, I am grateful, because that's what I wanted this space to be. Yes, I think talk therapy can be very traumatic. I agree. And I still recommend it, even though it can be traumatic, because I'm not sure what else I can really offer with full professional belief in it. I know other things work for other people, and if CBT or DBT doesn't work for you, and if talk therapy is too traumatic, by all means, seek alternatives. A lot of folks are having success with music therapy. Some are having success with art therapy, but those trauma pieces that are in there need to be addressed somewhere. And I think doing it alone is a mistake. I think it can be a mistake. So good and bad experiences with therapy. I had nothing but negative experiences with therapy until my diagnosis. And so I say to that, if you've had really terrible experiences with therapy and you just got diagnosed, you've never been in therapy for what it was you were really needing to be treated for. So therapy feels better and works better when we are working with the correct diagnosis. That I can promise. Let's see. Everybody's had different experiences with therapy, and I recommend. So that's what basically the chat is, and that's what I wanted, right? I wanted this sharing of experiences for everybody. I'm so glad you're finding it useful, Bill. I'm excited. I hope some of you out there are also finding it useful. But let me know. Email me at info@beccalaurie.com for your suggestions for what we can talk about here on live, and for your comments about what we do talk about. If you need resources, if you think there's something I should talk about on here that I haven't talked about yet, any of those things. I love hearing from you guys, and I really appreciate the validation of knowing that what I'm doing is useful. I love hearing that from you guys, because otherwise I'm just spinning my wheels. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me every week. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate seeing our chats and seeing how you guys have all kind of grown into a little family. It's so nice that we all know each other now, and I want us to continue to grow. So feel free to share that you come to live, unless you think you want it to say tiny, which is cute and fun, and I like that too. Oh, I'm so torn. Anyway, I will not be seeing you guys next Tuesday. What? I won't. I am taking a week off from appointments with other people, and I am focusing on the course. So I will be doing the course in there. I will be checking my email a couple of times a day, but I will not be scheduling any appointments for next week, and I will not be doing live and newsstand. I need a break. My brain tells me, my body tells me, and so I must lead by example and take a break. So I won't see you next week for live. I will put something else in its place, and I won't see you for newsstand next week. I'll see you for Friday this week, and I'm taking a week off. So I hope you guys miss me and also miss our group, but at the same time, I hope you remember to come back, and you don't forget about me. Okay, guys, I will see you in 2 weeks. Have an amazing time. I'm still here. I'm still checking my email, and I really love your thumbs ups. So thumbs up, shares, all of that stuff feels good, and I appreciate it. I am going to take a much needed break next week, and be back with new energy for you guys. So have a good time. I will see you again on this Friday for newsstand, and then I'm off, and then we'll be doing unit 2. I can't wait to get started. Oh, I'm so excited. All right, I'll see you guys next time. I'm Becca Lori Hector. This is Becca's Backyard Live inside for the rain, and I will see you next time, as well as on Friday for the new Neurodiversity Newsstand. Bye, guys.